You're tuned in to Just One Hot Mom with host Nanika Ansari. Get ready. She's about to bring you that fire, that flavor, that heat, all that passion, and more from around the world and in your neighborhood. Stay tuned.
Hey, hotties, you are tuned into Just One Hot Mom. I am your host, Nanika Ansari, and today I am on with Valencia Joy. Hey, V.
Hey, sis.
Hey. And we are going to talk about the complications, communications, the compromise, everything that goes along with co-parenting. Woo! Yay!
Word, cuss word.
So I want to ask you first, what is your definition of co-parenting?
Co-parenting is parenting with someone that you are not romantically linked to anymore.
And see, oh, that's a good one, because what about one night stands though? What if a baby is produced by a one night stand?
So sexually linked to
Okay.
anymore.
There we go. See, I was like, when I thought about it, I was like, what do I think co-parenting is? And I was like, it's sharing your child with someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just co-pilots. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're not, neither one of you are in charge. You're
yeah,
helping each other out. And
yeah.
so, even though that is the definition of co-parenting, do you think that's what people actually do? Do you think that that's what a lot of relationships are? Is actually a co-parenting style relationship?
No, I think for a lot of people that are broken up or have never been together, I think it becomes a control issue
Hmm.
versus sharing the parenting responsibility.
And see, I think, like, for me, when I was just thinking about it a minute ago, I was like, some people like to be like, the mother is in charge of all this other stuff. And then, like, not all dads, but let's be honest, most dads can come in and out as they
Yeah,
please. And so to
yeah.
me, that's not anything.
No,
The co-pilot can't lead a pilot alone.
you're right.
You know
You're
what I'm
right.
saying? So I was like, I feel like co-parenting isn't what we think it should be. And so that's to reform the conversation and start to be like, don't feel guilty, mom, if you have to split your time. Like, if you have to actually say, hey, it's your turn to parent.
Yeah.
And so,
I,
okay, so go ahead.
co-parenting for me was very difficult, not because I felt guilty, but because I was angry. I
Mm-hmm.
I have two boys, and I've always loved being a mom, and I've
Mm-hmm.
loved for being their mom. So then to have to take some of my time away, not because I'm on vacation or because I'm at work, but because you decided to be stupid and we had to split up, and
Mm-hmm.
it's got to go with you. I had to act like that was very hard.
And see, I think it is hard. I think what was hard for me was when I did try to co-parent, when someone would be like, well, it's the mom's responsibility. And it's just like, okay, why do you get to be scot-free? And it's just my sole responsibility to be in charge of these children. We made them together, and now all of a sudden it's the mom's, because I'm a
Yeah,
nurturer, because I'm the
yeah,
mom, that I'm supposed to be in charge.
yeah, yeah.
And so I think that my co-parenting situation, as you know, is different from yours. I honestly don't
Right.
have a co-parenting situation, at least with my two older children. I am solely responsible. So it was hard for me when Anissa came along to actually learn to co-parent with her dad.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, what are your thoughts on shared parenting? And let me give my definition, at least what I read up on my little sheet that declares that I'm solely responsible for these children now. Is that shared parenting time is split parenting time. Like, each parent gets equal amount of time to the kids. How do you feel about shared parenting?
So I have shared parenting
Okay.
legally, and that's something that my ex fought for. Like that was his number one thing going into court. Is like I want at least 50% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on that, it's admirable because he wants
Mm-hmm.
that. But at the time, I felt a little appalled because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of women, at least in my situation, go through is the thought process of if I couldn't trust you in a relationship with me, and if I couldn't trust you with my heart, what makes you think I'm about to trust you with my kids?
Oh, that's a deep one right there, honey. That's
I'm
deep.
not there to make sure y'all ain't all doing something crazy, you know?
And Demetria brings up a good point that it's not just single moms that automatically assume that you're in charge of the kids. It's in married relationships too, and we both were married, so we know that
Yes.
often people think like it's just the mom's responsibility, like you sacrifice, or if you want to do something, but it's the kids' time to do something, like you just are
Yeah.
okay. You know
Or
what? Mom's in charge.
those memes you always see of the kids will walk past the dad who's sitting right there to go find you sitting on the toilet to be like, "Hey, I got an apple." Be like, your dad is right downstairs in the kitchen.
So I think we know the good fight for all moms in general. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, shared parenting, and some people are going to be like, but I thought it was kind of like messed up for the kids because it's kind of like one of us has to give in. You know what I'm saying? Because now we're asking the kids, because we made a conscious decision about our adult lives. Now we're asking the kids to be a part of this decision that they may not want to be a part of. So now they got to have a room over here or a room over there. They got to be with you. And I was like, I think when I started to notice, it was one of my friends. I went to her house and I was hanging out with her kids. And we were about to go somewhere. And they were like, well, we have to be back at 4 o'clock because my mom is going to be here at 4 o'clock. And at 4:01, she's going to be mad if I'm not here. And I was just thinking in the back of my mind, like, if we could have a conversation like adults and be like, hey, my time may go into your time a little bit, but shared parenting is like legally, you have to stick to those times. Do you ever feel like there's a time where you're like, I'm really not on it, sticking to this time today?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. But now my ex and I are at a place where we can kind of communicate and
Mm-hmm.
we have a shared parenting plan in place in case. But
Mm-hmm.
we've learned to kind of just go with the flow because there is such a stress that gets put on the kids about mommy's gonna be mad if we not here, and dad said come out right now. Like it's too much stress on
Mm-hmm.
that was never meant to be on a child because our relationship didn't work out. That's so unfair. So I think now me and him are at a place where we can just kind of go with the flow. Hey, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late, or can they stay longer? I'll drop them off tonight. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Here for the kids.
And see, I think but most people, like you said earlier, are bitter in the situation. So they haven't gotten to a place of saying,
Oh yeah.
okay, be 10 minutes late, or can I keep them an extra day? I know it's your day, but we were doing something fun. And so I think that goes more deeper into who your character than it does for the other parent, because why would you want your kids to be punished because you're hurt? So we
Yeah.
just gonna hurt everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, my situation is a little bit different because with my oldest two children, their father has a health condition which he can't be alone with them. And
Okay.
so it was more of an argument about who was going to be the person who was going to be watching him with them. That I think that was our biggest issue. And I think the other issue was like not getting family members involved, but wanting it to be somebody who was going to be loving and thoughtful of the children.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that whole compromise is something else. If you guys are not familiar with having a monitored visitation, that
Mm-mm.
takes co-parenting to a whole nother level, because honestly, like, I am responsible for my two oldest children, like as far as everything and decisions for their lives. I can ask him, but also at the end of the day, the decision is mine. And so I think having those rights taken away from you as a parent,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes it very difficult for you to even want to make suggestions. I know at one point he was like, well, you just know everything. And I was like, yeah, I do. And, from that point on, I just took over. But I don't think anybody wants that responsibility. I didn't want the responsibility of saying, like, you're their dad, but your opinion doesn't count. But it's
Yeah.
kind of forced upon you, especially legally. Now, how do you feel about this? Because we have a bunch of kids that are born out of wedlock, and there
Yeah.
are no real parenting agreements. Do you feel that those parents should go get a parenting agreement?
I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody that a man
Mm-hmm.
who um a child with somebody he's not with. They were never married. And he was talking about possibly going to get some type of parenting agreement. And his point was, you never know how the mom is going to respond if I start dating somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
what if she wants to move out of state? What happens to my rights as a parent? And I remember when going through my divorce, my attorney told me, until we have a parenting plan in place and signed, he can do what he want to do and you can do what you want to do. That's a scary thought. That's, may be manipulative or angry or just not, like you said, now have some type of condition where they aren't able to parent effectively. That's scary.
That's a very scary thought.
I think everybody should have some type of parenting plan in place. If you don't want to follow it right now, that's fine. But something to fall back on, to refer to, everybody needs it.
And see, I think that's where people miss. Like, people get so caught up in the child support aspect of it. Yeah. And you don't know that this is totally and completely different from child support. Like, child support is one thing. They don't deal with visitation and how you parent your child. And so we just get caught up in that one aspect. Like, I'm not giving her no money to do this and all this stuff. And visitation and parenting is completely and totally separate. Yep. And so I was like, even finding myself, like, I feel like people who aren't together should come up with some type of agreement. Like, one, for me personally, I think it protects the mom. I think so often, it's like whenever dad is available, he's available. And let me tell you guys, I'm not knocking any fathers because there are great fathers out there. But to speak to situations that occur more in our community is that more dads are like, okay, well, I'll pick them up when I'm available. And, I've said, like, I have to work this weekend, but we never think mom's biggest things are, I'm just going to do what I have to do. And sometimes what you have to do is actively communicate that you need a parenting agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you don't even have to get the courts involved. That's where people mess up, is automatically thinking like you have to get the courts involved. If you two can have a communication and say, hey, you're going to take the kids Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to have them all the other days, and then every other holiday. Listen, see how simple that conversation was? If we can actively communicate with each other. But the issue is the active communication. Why is it so hard to communicate?
Because of the past. Because, like I said, if I can trust you with my heart in this relationship, then I probably don't want to sit down and talk to you about these kids. And I probably don't want to have a civilized conversation. Because I probably haven't dealt with my hurt, my anger. It probably festered a little bit depending on how much has passed. And like you said, that speaks to your character and the work that you have to do on you. Because at the end of the day, we all know kids need moms and dads. Kids need dads and moms. Like, no one should be esteemed higher than the other. The roles are very different, but both are needed. So I think my biggest, the thing that shifted my thinking in the middle of my divorce and trying to figure out parenting was, he is no longer my ex-husband. He is my children's
That's a good one. I like that. The thought of changing the shift.
Yeah, once I began to look at him as my children's father, that shifted my thinking and helped me to be more fair and to look more at what does he need for the kids and what do the kids need for him, so that everybody's healthy, because my biggest priority are my boys.
I see. Go ahead.
In order for them to have a healthy life and to grow up the right way, the way I think that they should grow up, they need a healthy relationship with their father. And that includes parenting time,
And I also think it's healthy for the other parent. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you ultimately at the end of the day can do whatever you want to do and you don't have to parent, you lose your connection, you lose your authority with those kids. And so in order for you to gain your authority and remain active, that the kids want to be around you, you have to have parenting time. But all too often in our community, we see where it's like, mama's going to take care of it, mama's going to do it, and that's just how it's going to be done. And that's it. How can we as mom demand our time back?
It goes back to the conversation. You have to be able to sit down and have that civilized conversation of, I need my time too. For 16 weeks and now I'd like 2 days, But you have to build to that. I think a lot of times with co-parenting, it's not this ready-made beautiful thing. You know what I mean? You have to build to it. And somebody on here earlier said that it takes a village. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when dad is not available the way you need him to be, you got to build your village.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I parent all day, every day, as much as I love my kids, if I do it all day, every day, I am not going to be the best version of me. I'm going to be tired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be mad. I'm not going to cook with love. Y'all going to get like some heated up ramen noodles from 3 days ago. I'm not going to want to sit and hear about your day. And, kids can tell you about their day
For
all day long.
hours, for hours, hours on hours on
Yes.
hours.
Yes.
And so for me, it's just a reclaiming of your time. I think all too often, and this is a big thing for me, mom shaming, that we are made to feel bad for
Yeah.
wanting to reclaim our own personal time. And it's
Yeah.
like, I know I've heard another mother say, like, well, girl, those your kids. Why would you want to send them somewhere else? And it's like, if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of them. Me taking care of me means that I have to replenish everything that I've given out to my
That's right.
children. And you
That's right.
give to everybody. And you give the most to the little people that you created.
Yep.
So I need my me time. And I don't feel like you should be shamed for admitting that you need your free time.
No. I think we come from a people
Mm-hmm.
who work hard and have learned to put themselves on the back burner because we just got to
Mm-hmm.
get it done. I come from a long line of women who don't know how to self-care
Mm-hmm.
because if they take time to self-care, they feel like everything else is going to fall apart. And maybe it would. I don't know. I wasn't, cognizant during that time. But I know for my generation, we have learned that we have to have some time for me or
Mm-hmm.
you might get hurt.
But here's the
So
thing, and this is going to shock a couple people. What if everything does fall apart?
it'll be
Everything's
okay.
already fallen apart before. You know what I'm saying? You started out with this family, or you started out and you had a one night stand or a relationship that you didn't expect, and things fell apart. So what if
Yeah,
something falls apart? You know what
good
I'm
point.
saying? But
Good-
we get so wrapped up in not wanting to fall.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like people not wanting to fail, that
Yeah.
we will cause ourselves more heartache in
Yes.
the long run.
Yes. But
And
self-care needs
so,
to be taught
go ahead.
amongst us. Self-care, I was just going
Mm,
to say self-care needs to be taught amongst us. We don't know how to do it because we're so
mm-mm,
focused on not failing and making sure everything doesn't fall apart that we just self-care has not even been on I've been a mom for 15 years, okay? And for a lot of that, even though I was married, it felt like I was a single mom because he was a musician, so he was always gone. So I was
mm-hmm,
in it by myself. Self-care was never even thought of for me until maybe
mm-hmm.
a year ago. I didn't even
And
think.
ain't that a shame? Like when you
Yes.
finally get a moment alone, you be like, I remember my first moment alone. I was in my house, it was quiet, and I was like, what the?
Yeah.
Like I heard every creak in my house. I heard everything outside. I was like
Yeah.
terrified. But in
Yeah.
that moment, I knew that I was doing my kids a disservice
Yeah.
because I was paranoid, like, oh my God, what something's gonna happen to them. And guess what, you guys, they could bump their heads, they could come back with a bruise, multitudes of things can happen. And the same things can happen when they're with you.
Yep.
It's just when this would happen with this person, you like, it's all your
Yep.
fault
Yep.
that this is happening.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think complications, so we're going to even get in a more complicated part of this conversation, is when, you guys are separate, you're co-parenting, but then another person enters the circle. So now we're talking about dating. Why do you think it is? And I'm going to be honest, we as women, we show it more than men because men get jealous too. But we have a thing that when that other person starts dating, all of our rules, and I like to call them insecurities, all of our, because they're not really rules because we didn't have them in the first place. Why do you think is that we get insecure when another person enters the picture?
Oh, girl, that's deep. I think
Yeah.
because you don't want anybody to take the place of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mommy, okay? It ain't no stepmama. It ain't no. Don't even call grandma mom because if that's grandma, I'm mom. I'm mama, okay? So
Excuse
I
me.
think and my situation was a little unique. because
Mm-hmm.
there was infidelity on his part. So the woman that my children ended up meeting on his side was the woman that he cheated with. Child, snatch your wig all the way back.
Throw it.
But he had enough God given sense to make sure that everybody in the picture knew Valencia is mommy and this is my, significant other. So it won't be them calling her mom or anything like that. Now I think that was nothing but God. And the fact that he knew that my crazy was at an all-time high. But I think for me, even if he dated, Jane Doe off the street, I'd still be like, I'm the mama.
And you know what? Demetria brings up a good point. It's the fear that that person won't treat your kids right. I know for me, that was a big fear for
Absolutely.
me. Like, that they not going to treat my baby right. And the moment you don't treat my baby right, you're going to see all 50 personalities come out. And I can't tell you which one you might catch that day. But
Absolutely.
for me, also, when I became the other, I won't say I'm their mom, but when I became the other woman
Okay.
in the person I was dating kid's life, I try to reach out to their mom and say, hey, I know I'm not their mother, but I'm going to be the best example of a woman for your kids as I can be, like I'm sure you are doing for them as well. So
Right.
as long as we can have that communication and I can say, I'm not their mother, I'm not making mother parenting decisions for you with your children. I may have a suggestion here and there, and if you want to hear it, let me know. But other than that, but I just think like we don't communicate enough with each other. We make assumptions about the other person, and we don't
Yeah.
even know that person. So it's a matter of too. Like now you know him, so you know what he
Yeah.
gonna do. But
Yeah.
now you got to get to know her.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
feel that they should get to know her? I mean, you should get to know her outside
The
of how your situation was.
the girlfriend,
hmm
yeah, if she's gonna be around my child. Yeah. And actually, as part of my parenting plan, legally, it's in the documents that before the children meet anybody new on either side, that we have the option to sit down and talk and get to know each other.
And see, that parenting plan is a powerful piece of paper that people
Girl,
are really missing out
listen,
on
yes,
because it's
it protects me.
exactly.
But it protects me in terms of what woman is going to be around my child and what expectations she will now know I have for her when my
hmm
children are around her. That's
And
important.
I think it holds us as parents responsible because you don't want everybody meeting your kids. So now,
That,
if because I have this agreement that says that my ex has to meet or the mother of my children has to meet the person that
that's
I'm
right.
dating before my kids, like it holds everybody responsible that you don't just have all these flings and be
Right.
introducing the kids to random people all the
Right.
time.
Right. Right.
So, would you recommend, because I know my situation, therapy for families who are in a situation where they have to co parent and
Yes.
there's a breakdown?
I was going to bring that up. And I've never done it, but I'm definitely an advocate for it. If we can't come to an agreement about what's going on with our kid, yeah, we need a third party. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think, for a lot of times in our community, men don't want to go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And women try to kind of hide it that they'll go, but they don't really want to talk about it. Listen, if it's going to benefit my children, yes, let's go. Let's sit
Go
down.
have a
Let's sit together.
regularly scheduled
Agree.
therapy session.
Yes. Yes, it's needed.
And so I think so when uh, our divorce was taking place, my son had some bigger issues, and so did my daughter. And so even though that their father didn't go to therapy, we still went to therapy as a family. And I thought that that was important that my kids know that even if you feel like you can't talk to me because you think you're going to hurt my feelings, or you
Mhm.
can't talk to dad because you think you're going to hurt his feelings, we're
Mhm.
going to go someplace where you can feel like you can have these conversations. And I feel like therapy really helped me to understand what my kids were going through, how they felt, because I can
Yeah.
assume that I
Yeah.
know, but I don't
Yeah.
really know. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like all they know is that this breakup has happened or my parents were never involved. They don't know the history behind it, and they shouldn't.
Nope, they should not.
And so I found that therapy really helped us for my kids to gain some sense of control back over their lives.
Yeah.
because
Good
it
point.
felt like it was out of control for a moment there.
Yep.
Now, what about a communication plan? And I just came up with this because of like something at work that was happening. I was like, what's a communication plan? And it was just like this like web of how people communicate with one another. What do you think about coming up with a communication plan for how we parent? Like, say for instance, this always happens. If something happens at school, one parent gets contacted, the other parent doesn't get contacted. So you don't know what's going on. This parent does. The message isn't relayed, and now there's an argument because everybody hasn't been informed. What
Yeah.
do you think about a communication plan? Like, that's something new. I'm about to invent it. Don't nobody take
I
it as patent.
I think it's awesome. Anytime, the way that we co-parent is that anytime one of us gets a phone call, the other one immediately at least gets a text like, hey, something's going on at the school, or I had to pick so and so up, they're sick, or there's a doctor's appointment today at 2 o'clock. Just so that the other parent doesn't feel left out. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think, those small little things that really mean nothing. I didn't tell you that so and so had a doctor's appointment today. It really means nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
if it can build trust that, okay, I told you, let's continue to co-parent effectively 2 o'clock at the doctor, then let's do it. It's no skin off my back. So I agree with that. That's a good idea.
See, I'm about to get that communication plan in place. But as you guys know, my co-parenting is different. And so I'm going to share a little story. And then, Valencia, I want to get your thoughts. It came a time when my oldest daughter was going to prom. And, prom and graduation, this is a big
Big time.
milestone in her life. And I went to go reach out to her dad, despite the fact that we weren't on the best terms of communication. I'm thinking in my mind that this is a time, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is not about me. It's about her. But
Right.
then my daughter told me she didn't want him to be involved. How do you deal with the other parent when the child has made a decision that they don't want to be involved? How do you co-parent that way? Do you respect your child's wishes, or do you overrule and say, hey, this is considered what I think is the right thing to do?
I think there's levels to this.
Mm-hmm.
um, because you have to know your child. Is this a manipulation tactic? So I won't get in as much trouble if daddy doesn't know, what I don't want him to know. Um, if he comes for your example for prom, if he shows up at prom, is it going to be drama?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many layers. I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer to it, but that's difficult because especially if you have a parenting plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to go by this parenting plan. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Like, he can take me to court if I'm
So
not
then
following this plan.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because then it's like, okay, so you have this parenting plan that's given to you by the courts or that you guys have agreed upon, but then it changes as your child grows older. Do you think that there is a necessity to revisit the plan like every 6 months or every year?
Yeah, definitely. That because
It's,
they
go
grow
ahead.
up, things change, and there are things that my ex may want to talk to, or that my kids want to talk to my ex about that they don't feel comfortable. I should know. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So it goes both ways. But yeah, you should revisit it.
And see, so for me personally, I always ride with my kids just because,
Absolutely.
like, I'm going to be totally transparent and totally honest. When she said she didn't want him there, I granted her wishes only because of our circumstances
Yeah.
with our parent, because our parenting agreement was that I was in charge. And so, but when I made that decision, I knew that for a lifetime, that if she ended up regretting that someday, that it could backfire on me. And so I feel like sometimes we as moms take the risk and take the brunt force of the issues that develop in our children, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like, I want to be supportive to you as a mom, but I also
Yeah.
want to, stop arguing with this person. So what do you do?
Did
And
he
so
get
that's
mad?
I think, yeah, I think his feelings were hurt. I'm sure they
Mm.
were, but that was a reflection of what we were talking about earlier. That was a reflection of their relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all about, you guys have your own relationship. I have my own relationship with my kids, and he has a relationship with them. And so the decision she made was a reflection of their relationship that had nothing to do with me. But I know, because you know how it goes with moms, that it would fall back on me if it was to
Yeah.
backfire. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
you know what? Sometimes we as mom, we can't win for losing, but
No.
hey, that's the job. Okay, so why do you think in our community it is so taboo for fathers to be the main sole parent? Because I'm finding a lot of times out here that a lot of dads are the guardian, you know, the main guardian, and the mom's the secondary. Why do you think in our community that's so taboo, and you are shamed if you're not the mom and you are the main legal guardian?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think, for generations in our community, it's only been mom.
Mm-hmm.
So if for there to be a shift, a lot of us don't know our grandfathers, or
Mm-hmm.
our grandfathers had, a couple different great great grandfathers had a couple different families, so we
Papa
didn't know.
was a rolling stone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And grandma was steady, right? She was
Mm-hmm.
always there, and so that's what we know is mom and grandma. So I think the problem just simply is the tradition that we've been stuck in, where mom takes the lead role. I don't know any dads that have um, sole parenting or sole custody. I don't know
I
any dad.
know a couple, and it's really like it's the role reversal, because it's kind of like, okay, my mom is out here doing whatever she want to do, and we're with my dad all the time, and she gets us on the weekends. But it's so rare, I feel like, that
Very.
they are in charge. Even, like, let's be honest, ladies, even if we have shared parenting, when they say they in charge, we're really still in charge. So,
Yes.
but when the father is the person who has to make the legal decisions, it seems so taboo in our community for fathers to even sign on for that. And
Yeah.
so I was just curious as to, why do you think we are stuck in the Stone Ages when it comes to the advancement of fathers being the main active parent?
I just think is mom is all we know. I
And
don't.
see,
I
moms,
don't
we trying to get y'all some breaks in here. We trying to get y'all some breaks, because I know for me personally, I didn't want to end up resenting my children for not being able to still live a life. And so, and when I say that, I know some people are like, oh,
know.
mom,
Okay.
you just give your whole life for your kids. And I'm like, no, I don't give my whole life for my kids. I pour into them, and I give them a portion of who I am so that they are better versions of me. But because I'm still becoming me, there's time that I have to take to make sure that I stay sane, that I stay focused, that, the best version of me is what gets poured into them.
Do you think that um, different ages require different
Oh,
amount
for sure.
of parents?
For sure. So, my kids. My kids are 21, 14, and 5.
Yeah.
Um, my 21-year-old requires a different conversation. We're not friends. We are not friends at all. I'm gonna
Y'all
always
ain't
be your
that much.
mom. No, we ain't. We may hang out and stuff like that, but I'm gonna always be your mom. I am not your friend. But our
Mm-hmm.
conversations have evolved into where I'm like, you are always open. I'm always open to hear what you have to say. This is
Mm-hmm.
your life. You need to make adult decisions. I will guide you. I
Mm-hmm.
might not be able to tell you what to do anymore, but I'm always going to be listening. I'm going to be here as a guide. My
Mm-hmm.
14-year-old, same reasoning, but I can tell you what to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to your conversation. You can express yourself. I'm a real big express person. I want my kids to always feel like they can
Me
say
too.
what is on their minds, and he can say it, but right now you're 14, so I'm still in charge. So if I don't agree, we're probably going to do it my way. And then my 5-year-old, I'd like to think that I tell her what to do, but
I've met her, so.
you've met her. So each one requires a different version of me. And that's why I say it's important to have your time, especially if you have multiple kids, not even the age spacing, but their personalities. each person is an individual that requires you to be the individual that they can trust. And so I can't just be Nikki one way. I
Yeah.
have to be multiple Nicks in order for the children to become who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so how is it with you and your boys? How's the communication? Because that's different. Like I have girls and one boy, but you have two boys. How is the communication with them, especially with your girly girl?
Yeah. I am. Our communication has been very good up until now. We talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is 15, so he's starting to get into that 15 arena. It's a very weird space. But I try to remind myself daily to give him patience and grace because he's never been in this area before and neither have I. So I try very hard. But up until now, our communication has been really good. We talk about everything. Everything,
Mm-hmm.
Nikki.
Every it's some conversations that I'd be like, okay,
Girl,
like
listen.
I wish there was a dad around.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
But it's also, I feel like it's also improved who I am as a person.
Oh, yeah.
Having to make these decisions has improved my life, and it's opened my eyes to see different. I don't, see the world differently. But
Oh,
even
yeah.
communicating, so with Anissa's father, despite we're together, we're still co-parenting because we still
Yeah.
have different views of parenting, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like everybody has what the type of parent that they want to be. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be this type of parent, and so I have my view and he has his views. But because we can communicate with one another, I can explain to him like, well, this is why I didn't make her go to bed on time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he might say, well, you need to stick to a bedtime because when I'm with her, we stick with the
Mm-hmm.
bedtime. And that way
Mm-hmm.
we can have this open communication, this dialogue that says, she's going to get the best of both of our worlds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so prayerfully, the diva will. That girl is working me. So, but I want to go back to something you just said about your children. I think that we need to do that with the person who we're co-parenting with, and with the family, and with their significant other, which is offer grace. All too often we forget, especially, I mean, some situations I've seen have been some Christians, and it's been some of the, ooh, I'm like, girl, you took it all the way to that level. Bring it back
Yep.
down here.
Yep. Was it me?
But no, but it is about offering people grace, like to be who they are. Because one thing I always tell myself is that we are all doing life, and
Yeah.
life is
For the first
happening.
time.
Right. Life is happening rapidly for everyone. And so sometimes you only think about what's happening to you. But
Yeah.
when you become evolved, you
Yeah.
have to think about other people, and not that you don't respect your own feelings, but it gives you a greater understanding of like, okay, they may be having a moment today. Let me offer them some grace and come back to
Mm-hmm.
this conversation, just like we do it for ourselves, because we offer ourselves grace most of the time.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
have to offer that to other people. If you were to give 3 tips about co-parenting, and what were like some of your star points that you wish someone would have told you, but now that you know it, you can use it in your co-parenting plan, what would those points be?
I think the first one is what I said earlier, that I had to look at him differently. He wasn't my ex-husband. He was their father. He's a person that, for whatever reason, God loves. And he is their father. And that helped me to deal with him better in terms of parenting. The second thing that I learned early on, we were still married, but our children were very young, is that he may do it differently, but as long as it gets done, I need to chill out. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was a stickler for how to make the bottles, and what time to change the diaper, and whatever other small things that he did differently, but they still got done. And I caused myself a whole lot of undue stress, because I was wanting him to do it a certain way. So it goes into now with co-parenting. I'm really not around to see, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how he parents, but as long as they're safe and they're fed and clean, then he got it done
Mm-hmm.
for the day. So bravo. And the third tip, is my kids come first. I had to learn, like, he would walk into a room and I wouldn't speak. And my whole thinking, well, I don't have to speak to you. We're not together. I don't owe you a hello. I don't. But if it affects my children, because they're like, the tension in here is too great. And so now I can't perform well. I can't do what I need to do. And, you know, they started stuttering when they were talking because they're just so uptight, because the room is just so uptight. I had to stop all of that because they come first. So I couldn't offer a hello. You know what I mean? Or, you know, how you doing? How you doing? Right.
If you're on fire, I'll sprinkle some water.
Put a little bit, gasoline, water, whichever I have on hand. But the point is, as long as it benefits my two children, then that's the sacrifice I'll make to make sure they're good. Because I want them healthy and whole men one day. And in order for them to be that one day, I got to work right now on today, you know? So those are my three.
Well, I appreciate you offering them. Those are three good ones, ladies. So don't forget, like, that was really good. Like, you know, yeah, you know, there's some growth in this process.
Yes.
All right, so who you telling? All right, so V, tell us what you've got going on. What's going on with you? Because you got a couple different things. Give us your information. How can we support you?
Well, ladies, I do run heysis.org. We are a women's empowerment organization. It is Girl Talk for women. My tagline is where broken women come to heal and healed women help. We meet every third Saturday of the month. You can look us up on www.heysis.org. We are also on Instagram and Facebook under @SisHeySis. And I also do Hey VTV. It is my YouTube channel. I talk about anything and everything, all while trying to keep Jesus at the forefront. I talk about this divorce life, this single life, this co-parenting life, dating, budgets, food, weight loss, all types of everything. So search me up on YouTube, Hey VTV. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Hey VTV.
Cool. So you guys go check out Hey V everywhere, because she is really doing some dope things. And I'll leave you hotties with this thought, that this is all a part of the conversation. The way that we communicate on here is to help you to become the best version of yourself you can be, whether it's parenting, dating, financially, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is, to become the best versions of yourself. Because ultimately, if you are pouring into the life of another, you're going to need to come here and get filled up. So I hope you guys take V's advice when it comes to co-parenting, and please think about it. Even if you weren't divorced, if you've never been married to the person, even if you're just sharing a child with the person, think about getting that parenting agreement. It doesn't just protect you, it protects your children, and it protects the other person. So think about that. You guys have been tuned in, and guess what, hotties? You've been elevated. Talk to you soon.